Commander John Blix stood with his hands clasped behind his back, gazing out the observation deck window of the Luminary Grace. The earth spun below, a vivid orb of blue and green, swathed in white clouds. To the Dreliox, it was a world teeming with chaotic life, a stark contrast to the harmonious, ordered existence they had cultivated over millennia. Yorin, a seasoned officer with the calm demeanor of one who had seen countless galactic wonders, turned to his science officer. Yalix, explain again. Why are we studying pets? Yalix, wiry and teal-skinned, adjusted the neural lattice hovering over his head, a gesture of mild exasperation. Commander, the species on this planet, humans, have a peculiar cultural trait. They coexist with non-sapient creatures in a deeply personal and symbiotic way. Dogs, cats, birds, even rodents. They are not merely beasts of burden or livestock. They are companions, integral to human emotional stability. Jarn's brow furrowed. Companions? Are you suggesting humans derive psychological resilience from proximity to creatures that cannot even form coherent sentences? It's far more profound than that, Yalix replied, pulling up a hologram of a human child playing with a Labrador retriever. Our studies indicate that this bond reduces stress, fosters loyalty, and even inspires acts of heroism. The relationship is built on trust and mutual affection, a form of primitive but effective diplomacy. Perhaps we could learn from it. Ha ha! Jarn turned back to the view. Very well. Begin the operation. From orbit, the Dreliox released a fleet of small collection drones. Over the following days, these drones infiltrated Earth, carefully extracting animals from shelters, parks, and homes. Every precaution was taken to avoid alarming the humans. Soon, the Luminary Grace and its sister ships were brimming with Earth creatures. Each animal was placed in an environment tailored to its needs. Lush enclosures for the cats, sprawling fields for the dogs, and intricate labyrinths for the smaller mammals. The Habitatarium, the fleet's most advanced ecological research deck, had never seen such diversity. Jarn toured the deck with Yalix, his ceremonial robes trailing behind him. Dogs wagged their tails and barked joyfully as he passed, while cats stretched languidly, watching him with half-lidded eyes. A cage of guinea pigs squeaked in unison, their tiny noses twitching in curiosity. These beings are unusual, Jarn observed. Harmless, I assume? Utterly, Yalix assured him. Ha! A low growl rumbled nearby, drawing Jarn's attention. A large German shepherd stared at him through a transparent barrier, its teeth bared in a silent warning. Jarn instinctively stepped back. Is that one harmless? Yalix chuckled nervously. They are not predators to us, Commander. Observe their interactions with humans. Such loyalty. He gestured toward another hologram, this one showing an elderly man hugging a golden retriever. These animals are docile. In fact, their bond with humans might even make them allies in fostering interspecies diplomacy. Jarn considered this. Begin integrating them among the crew. Let us see how these companions enhance our understanding. At first, the results were promising. Crew members found themselves enchanted by the creature's antics. Dogs trotted beside engineers, tails wagging merrily, cats perched on consoles, purring contentedly as science officers worked. Even the guinea pigs, confined to their enclosures, brought laughter to the typically stoic Dreliox with their, comical squeaks and tiny bumbling movements. Morale across the fleet surged. Yalix documented the phenomenon meticulously, convinced they were on the verge of an intergalactic breakthrough. It all seemed perfect, until it wasn't. The first incident occurred in the medical bay. Dr. Malnix, a meticulous and unflappable physician, had brought her Siamese cat Noodles into the lab for companionship. She was examining a crew member when a yowling, screeching blur launched itself off the counter. Noodles had leapt onto the patient, claws extended, and latched onto their shoulder. "Get it off me!" the crew member shrieked. Malnix scrambled to free Noodles, only to receive a sharp swat to the face. Within moments, the pristine medical bay descended into chaos. Vials shattered, equipment sparked, and 3 crew members were left nursing minor injuries. Not long after, in the engineering bay, Charlie, a floppy-eared hound beloved by the entire crew, showed his darker side. Startled by a loud noise, he lunged at a power conduit, mistaking it for a threat. His jaws clamped down with alarming force, severing the connection and plunging the ship into darkness. Revlin, the chief engineer, arrived to find Charlie sitting amidst the wreckage, looking immensely pleased with himself. "You're lucky you're adorable," Rivlin muttered, scratching the dog behind the ears. The situation escalated with the guinea pigs. Left unattended for a few days, they chewed through the barriers of their enclosure and infiltrated the ship's ventilation system. Their incessant gnawing caused air circulation failures, triggering alarms across the luminary grace. "Seal the vents," Jarin barked as the bridge filled with frantic squeaks. "I'm trying," Yalek shouted, wrestling with the controls. Moments later, a small, furry face emerged from the console, followed by another and another. Guinea pigs poured into the command deck, scurrying between stations and chewing on anything they could find. Reports of similar incidents poured in from the other ships. On the ethereal Sojourn, a cockatoo mimicked the voice of a commanding officer, issuing false orders that led to a near-miss collision with an asteroid. On the Celestial Whisper, a ferret stole a critical navigation crystal, hiding it in an untraceable nook. A herd of rabbits overran the Stellar Radiance's hydroponics bay, devouring a month's supply of food. The breaking point came when a tabby cat aboard the Celestial Whisper activated a ship-wide distress signal after being denied a second serving of tuna. Entire squadrons scrambled to respond, only to find the source of the emergency was an irate feline sitting smugly on a control panel. Jarn convened an emergency meeting with his officers. "This is unacceptable," he declared. "We brought these creatures aboard to learn from them, to enhance our understanding of humanity. Instead, they've endangered our ships, disrupted operations, and turned us into their personal attendants." Yalix hesitated before speaking. "Commander, I believe we underestimated their intelligence. These creatures possess a cunning far beyond what we anticipated." Jarn sighed, rubbing his temples. "What do you propose?" Yalix leaned forward. "We must reassess their role. Perhaps they are not just companions. They may be biological weapons?" The room fell silent. Jarn's expression darkened. "Then it is time we adapt. These creatures may have the upper hand now, but we are the Drelioks. We must study their tactics, learn their strategies, and reclaim our ships without harming them." The officers exchanged uncertain glances. Jarn stood, his voice resolute. "Prepare for containment protocols. We are about to wage the strangest battle in our history." The Drelioks fleet's transformation into a battleground of cunning versus chaos began with a series of containment measures. Commander Jarn Blix ordered the immediate construction of specialized barriers, reinforced enclosures, and behavioral monitoring systems across the ships. Yet, as the crew soon discovered, outmaneuvering Earth's creatures required more than technology. It demanded ingenuity. On the ethereal Sojourn, Muffin the German Shepherd had become a symbol of defiance. She had claimed the bridge as her territory, barking incessantly at anyone who approached the captain's chair. The crew's attempts to lure her away with food failed. Muffin was too smart to fall for such tactics. A team of engineers developed a plan. Using robotic drones equipped with projectors, they created holographic squirrels that darted across the bridge. Muffin sprang into action, chasing the illusions with unrelenting enthusiasm. "It's working!" Captain Venlo whispered, tiptoeing back to his station. But just as the crew began to relax, Muffin skidded to a halt, sniffed the air suspiciously, and turned toward the projector. With a single bark, she sent the drone scattering, then resumed her post in the captain's chair. Venlo threw up his hands. "She's outsmarted us again." The scene was no better aboard the Celestial Whisper, where Mango the parrot had turned the communications deck into his personal playground. Mango's latest feat involved intercepting a diplomatic transmission from a neighboring star system. He replaced the outgoing message with a recording of himself, squawking, "You pretty bird, surrender now or face the wrath of Mango." The diplomatic envoy responded with confusion, sending a fleet of ships to investigate. Commander Jarn had to intervene personally, calming the envoy with profuse apologies and assurances that the Drelioks were not declaring war under the command of a parrot. "That bird," Jarn muttered under his breath, "is going to give me a nervous breakdown." Meanwhile, on the Luminary Grace, the guinea pigs had evolved from a mild nuisance to a coordinated insurgency. Their infiltration of the ventilation system had transformed the ship into a labyrinth of squeaks and chewed wiring. Efforts to herd them back to their enclosure were met with unexpected resistance. The guinea pigs had constructed barricades out of insulation material and discarded components. Relin, the chief engineer, devised a new approach. Using scent-based lures, he led the rodents into a controlled section of the ship. Once inside, the guinea pigs were greeted by a small army of robotic drones that corralled them into reinforced habitats. "For once, Marty," Relin said, slumping against a console, "we're a step ahead." Moments later, an alert sounded. The guinea pigs had chewed through the new barriers within minutes. "They're learning faster than we can adapt," Relin exclaimed. While chaos reigned on many ships, there were glimpses of hope. On the Stellar Radiance, Baxter the Labrador Retriever had become a star. After an initial period of mischief, he demonstrated an uncanny ability to fetch tools and assist the engineering team. His wagging tail and eager demeanor lifted spirits across the crew. "Good boy, Baxter," an engineer said, patting the dog on the head. "You're more reliable than half the crew." Other pets began to show similar potential. Cats proved adept at pest control, catching smaller creatures that had stowed away on the ships. Birds like Mango, despite their penchant for mischief, showed promise in reconnaissance roles, scouting sections of the ships that were difficult for the Drelioks to access. Commander Jarn seized on these successes. "If some of these creatures can work with us," he declared, "perhaps we can train them all." The fleet launched an ambitious program to integrate the pets into ship operations. Dogs were taught to carry tools and deliver messages. Birds were trained to assist in monitoring systems. Even the guinea pigs were given tasks, though their job primarily involved chewing waste materials in recycling bays. Progress was uneven. Muffin continued to defy orders, rallying her fellow dogs into spontaneous rebellions. Mango still delighted in mimicking crew commands to sow chaos, and the guinea pigs, well, they chewed through everything indiscriminately, useful or not. Despite the setbacks, morale improved. The crew began to see the pets not as nuisances, but as eccentric colleagues. Basil the rabbit became an unofficial mascot for the Luminary Grace, hopping between stations and nudging crew members with his nose during tense moments. Even Jarn, once skeptical, found himself growing fond of the animals. But the uneasy truce was shattered one fateful day. Aboard the ethereal Sojourn, a junior officer attempted to discipline Muffin after she had commandeered the captain's chair yet again. Muffin responded by rallying the other dogs into a full-blown mutiny. The canines roamed the ship in packs, barking orders and herding crew members into corners. At the same time, Mango launched a synchronized prank on the Celestial Whisper, sending out false alerts that triggered a fleet-wide lockdown. The guinea pigs seized the opportunity to escape their habitats, overrunning the Luminary Grace's command deck once more. Jarn stared at the chaos unfolding on the monitors. "This isn't an accident," he said grimly. "They're working together." Yalex nodded, his expression dark. "Commander, I fear we've underestimated them again. These creatures are not just intelligent, they're organized." Jarn straightened his robes, determination etched into his features. "Then we'll have to adapt once more. It's time to show them that the Dreliox can outthink even the most cunning of Earth's creatures." The fleet braced for what Jarn would later call the strangest battle in galactic history. The fleet's efforts to reclaim order reached a new level of complexity. Commander John Blix and his officers convened aboard the Luminary Grace, poring over strategy holograms that displayed every mischievous maneuver the pets had pulled. "We're not dealing with chaos anymore," Yalex said, pointing to an overlay of synchronized incidents. "Look at this. Muffin's rebellion coincides with Mango's communications disruptions and the guinea pig's coordinated escape. This is a calculated, multi-front operation." Jarn nodded grimly. "It's a coup, but we will respond with precision and discipline. Are the pet response units ready?" "They are," Yalex confirmed. "We've also equipped them with the new tools you approved: harmless containment pods, advanced decoy systems, and reinforced barriers." "Good," Jarn said, steeling himself. "Deploy them across the fleet. It's time to end this." The first wave of the operation targeted Muffin's canine rebellion on the ethereal Sojourn. The PRU, armed with automated drones and pheromone lures, carefully maneuvered the dogs into a containment area. Muffin, however, proved elusive. She darted between barriers, barking commands to her pack with startling efficiency. "She's using tactics," an officer exclaimed, watching as Muffin led the dogs in a flanking maneuver. The PRU adapted, deploying a device that projected holographic squirrels, an irresistible distraction. This time, they paired it with sound emitters mimicking human whistles. Muffin hesitated, ears twitching, and finally gave in. She herded her pack toward the holograms, giving the PRU just enough time to close the containment barriers. Muffin turned to face her captors, her tail wagging defiantly. "It's almost like she's daring us to try again," Captain Venlo muttered. On the Celestial Whisper, Mango the parrot was proving equally troublesome. His mimicry had escalated to issuing false orders to PRU teams, leading to comical but frustrating mishaps. One team found themselves locked in a supply closet after Mango squawked, "Emergency protocol. Secure all access points." Yalex personally intervened, bringing a set of miniature trinkets and shiny objects to Mango's perch. "Here," he said, laying them out in front of the bird. "A peace offering." Mango cocked his head, hopping closer. He picked up a glittering crystal and turned it over in his beak. "Let's make a deal," Yalex continued. "You stop sabotaging us, and I'll keep these treasures coming." Mango squawked in agreement. Or at least that's how Yalex chose to interpret it. The parrot didn't see so much as all mischief, but his antics became more contained, as though he now saw himself as an entertainer rather than a saboteur. The guinea pigs aboard the Luminary Grace, however, presented a different challenge altogether. Their population had inexplicably doubled, and they had begun creating complex tunnels and nests in the ship's structural framework. Raylan, the chief engineer, stared at a holographic display of the damage. "They've compromised critical systems, Commander. We need to flush them out immediately." "How?" Jarn asked. Raylan grinned. "With their own methods." The engineers deployed a network of robotic drones that mimicked guinea pig chirps, emitting pheromones that signaled dominance. The guinea pigs responded with apparent submission, following the drones into a carefully designed enclosure filled with food, bedding, and reinforced barriers. Raylan sighed in relief as the last guinea pig was secured. "Finally, we've reclaimed the ship." But no sooner had he spoken than an alert sounded. "Commander," a communications officer called, "an unidentified vessel has entered our sector. It's broadcasting an aggressive signal." Jarn strode to the central console as the ship's main screen lit up. The alien vessel was massive, its exterior bristling with weaponry. An insectoid figure appeared on the screen, its mandibles clicking menacingly. "I am Zorbox of the Xanthar Dominion," the figure announced, its voice a harsh rasp. "Surrender your fleet and all its resources, or face annihilation." Jarn held his ground. "Zorvox, we are the Dreliox. We do not engage in violence, but we will not yield. Perhaps we can reach a diplomatic resolution." Zorbox chittered in a mocking laugh. "Diplomacy? Pathetic. Prepare to be destroyed." As the communication cut off, Yalix turned to Jarn. "Commander, we're vastly outgunned. What's our strategy?" Yarn hesitated, his gaze shifting to Basil the rabbit, who was perched calmly on a nearby console. The rabbit twitched his nose, seemingly unbothered by the crisis. An idea began to form. "Yalix," Jarn said, his voice resolute, "prepare the pets." Yalix blinked. "The pets, Commander?" "Yes, they've outmaneuvered us at every turn. Let's see how the Xanthar handle them." Within minutes, the fleet was abuzz with activity. Dogs were fitted with small, harmless devices that emitted distracting sounds and holograms. Cats were deployed as stealth operatives, their agility perfect for navigating enemy vessels. Birds like Mango carried tiny transmitters to disrupt communications. Even the guinea pigs had a role, their insatiable chewing redirected to sabotage the Xanthar's critical systems. As the Xanthar prepared their assault, they were entirely unprepared for the chaos that descended upon their ship. Muffin and her canine brigade infiltrated the Xanthar vessel, barking and bounding through the corridors, scattering soldiers in every direction. Mango swooped into the command center, squawking at Zorbox's face and pecking at his antennae. Cats disabled surveillance systems, their silent movements evading all detection. The guinea pigs, transported in containment pods, were released into the Xanthar's engine room. Within minutes, they had chewed through vital wiring, triggering widespread power failures. Zorbox stared at his flickering monitors, his mandibles clacking in frustration. "What is happening?" he bellowed. On the luminary Grace, John watched the chaos unfold with a mix of awe and satisfaction. "They're doing it," Yalix said, shaking his head in disbelief. "They're actually winning." "Never underestimate Earth's creatures," Jarn said with a faint smile. Zorbox's booming voice echoed through the fleet's communications system. "We yield. Call off these monsters." Jarn leaned forward, his tone calm but firm. "We accept your surrender, Zorvox. Now, perhaps we can discuss a peaceful resolution." The Xanthar warship powered down, its weapons retracting. The Dreliox fleet erupted in cheers as the pets returned to their ships, tails wagging, feathers ruffled, and whiskers twitching. Jarn turned to Basil, who had hopped onto his shoulder. "Ambassador Basil, I believe you've earned a commendation." The rabbit twitched his nose in agreement. The Xanthar warship, once an imposing and indomitable force, now drifted in space, eerily quiet. On board, its crew moved cautiously through the damage wrought by the Dreliox fleet's unconventional operatives. Wires dangled from chewed conduits. Security systems had been disabled by precise feline sabotage, and Zorvox himself sat hunched on his throne, his antennae twitching nervously. Back aboard the Luminary Grace, Commander Jarn Blix and his officers reconvened in the command chamber to discuss the aftermath. The pets, now unofficial heroes of the fleet, were scattered across their ships, some resting, some reveling in the praise of their crewmates. "We have neutralized the Xanthar threat," Yalix said, gesturing to a holographic display of the now-disabled warship. "Their forces are in disarray, and their power systems are critically compromised. The pets performed far beyond expectations." Jarn nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Yes, they've proven their worth. But this victory raises questions. What do we do with the pets now? Do we integrate them further, or return them to Earth?" Llewellyn spoke up, scratching his chin. "Return them? Commander, we've barely scratched the surface of their potential. These creatures have taught us more about strategy and adaptability in weeks than we've learned in centuries of study." Yalix interjected, "Potential, yes, but also risk. Let's not forget the havoc they caused before we directed their efforts. The guinea pigs alone nearly brought down an entire ship. And Mango's antics—" Jarn raised a hand to silence them. "We must be careful not to see them as tools or weapons. They're more than that. They're sentient beings in their own way, full of individuality and spirit. If we keep them, it must be as equals, not subordinates." Yalix hesitated, but nodded. "Agreed. So what's the next step, Commander?" Jarn's response was cut short by a transmission from the Xanthar ship. Zorvox's face appeared on the screen, looking more subdued than ever. "Drelyox, Commander," he rasped. "We wish to negotiate." Yaren leaned forward. "You're in no position to make demands, Zorvox." "I make no demands," Zorvox said, his mandibles clicking nervously. "I offer a proposition. These creatures you command, these pets, are unlike anything we have ever encountered. They are dangerous, unpredictable, and frankly terrifying. We propose a truce in ensuring our systems are restored. We will depart this sector and trouble you no more." Yalix raised an eyebrow. "They're scared of the pets?" "Terrified," Jarn murmured, suppressing a smile. "Very well, Zorvox. We will aid in your repairs. But know this. Any aggression against the Drelyox, and we won't hesitate to let the pets loose again." Zorvox nodded quickly. "Understood." The transmission ended, and the bridge erupted in muted laughter. "It seems we found a new form of diplomacy," Yalix said wryly. "Indeed," Jarn replied, "but let's not get complacent. Prepare repair teams, and make sure the pets don't get any ideas about infiltrating the Xanthar ship again." R'lyn chuckled. "I'll keep the guinea pigs locked up this time. They've had enough fun for one day." While the repairs commenced, the pets continued to integrate more deeply into the fleet's operations. Muffin was officially recognized as the Ethereal Sojourn's chief of security, her keen instincts proving invaluable in monitoring for intrusions. Mango, ever the troublemaker, had his role formalized as communications assistant, complete with a perch near the main console and a steady supply of shiny objects to keep him entertained. Even the guinea pigs found their place, their insatiable chewing redirected toward recycling waste materials into bio-friendly compounds. On the Luminary Grace, Basil became an ambassador of sorts, accompanying Yarn to diplomatic meetings. The rabbit's calm presence and uncanny ability to charm even the sternest Drelyox officers earned him near-on universal affection. One evening, as Jarn sat in his quarters reviewing reports, Basil hopped onto his desk. The rabbit nudged a datapad toward him, with surprising insistence. What is it, Basil?" Jarn asked, picking up the device. It displayed a draft message, crafted by Yalix, proposing a return mission to Earth to formally apologize for the removal of the pets and offer diplomatic relations with humanity. "You think we should go back, do you?" Basil twitched his nose in what John could only interpret as agreement. "Then we'll make it so," Jarn said. The message was approved and transmitted, setting the stage for what would become the most unusual interstellar treaty in history. Days later, the Dreliox fleet returned to Earth, their arrival marked by carefully crafted announcements to avoid panic. Humans gathered in awe as the aliens descended, accompanied by the very pets that had been taken from them. The Dreliox made their case humbly, explaining the misunderstanding and the lessons they had learned. To everyone's surprise, the humans weren't angry. "You learned something from them, didn't you?" one human asked, scratching a dog behind the ears. Jarn nodded. "More than we ever anticipated. These creatures are remarkable." "They're family," another human said, smiling. The humans and Dreliox reached an agreement. The pets who wished to return would do so, and those who had bonded with their new crewmates would remain. Humanity welcomed the Dreliox as allies, their shared love for Earth's creatures bridging the vast gulf between their species. As the fleet prepared to depart, Basil sat beside Yarn on the bridge, his nose twitching as he watched Earth fade into the distance. "Well, Ambassador Basil," Jarn said, "it seems this is just the beginning of what we'll learn from humanity and their incredible companions." The rabbit twitched his ears as if in agreement, ready for whatever came next.